Folks, what I'm going to tell you about is really disturbing. As you know, I watched the Duran. I didn't like their guests very much this morning, but I'm going to replay the entire 2 hours or so and give me a chance to understand what he was talking about. I think I was put off by his style more than anything else. It sounds like he's spot on. And I went back to see if I could watch that, and I ended up with a short video of theirs. And it's entitled, what is it entitled? Lavrov Visits China, Partnership Stronger Than Ever. And these guys are pretty brainy. This is a real short video if you want to get a taste. But it's the comments that are flooring me. The people that follow this are really bright. Even got a Bible reader in here, which is nice. But basically, the thing that bothers me is that the United States seized Afghanistan's entire forex reserve, $7 billion. And as one comment says here, U.S. seizing Afghanistan's forex reserve is akin to a rich man robbing a beggar of his minuscule life savings. Despicable and inhuman. So, when I was a little boy, I was told that we were very magnanimous. We gave people everything. We did everything for them. But now what I realize as I'm older is that, yeah, we sent them all that money, and they set up all the backdoor channels so it lined the pockets of our illustrious politicians, the bloodsuckers in Washington, D.C. And that's why these guys are coming out for this war, because they got another chance to line their pockets again. Folks, anybody who's hawked for this war in D.C. needs to be replaced. Every one of those son of a guns needs to be replaced because they're all doing it for one reason, and that is to enrich themselves. Oh yeah, the other thing is they're almost all owned by the Chi-Coms. You might as well face it, folks. The Chinese have already won this war. It's just a matter of if we're going to fight it or not. And the only way that I can see us fighting it is to shut the borders down, bring our boys home, and turn in upon ourselves and sort this out here and now. I'm talking about fighting intellectually. I'm talking about fighting politically. What I'm referring to is that we need to become Americans. For once, we need to live up to the ideals. Either we turn in on ourselves and restore common law, constitutional law, restore self-rule, or this world is in really bad shape. It's headed down. So they've already got us, folks. You just don't realize it. Yeah, your chief and commander and thief, whatever you want to call the jackass in D.C., he's an agent for the Chi-Coms. Oh, who else? Senator, what's that woman's name from California? And what's that other guy from California who also got caught with a Chi-Com agent for a lover and they rushed her out of the country? He's still in his seat. Every one of those treasonous people, Dianne Feinstein, Die-Fi, she ought to be excommunicated. She ought to be kicked out of the country. She ought to be, well, there's a lot of lampposts in Washington, D.C. If you get my drift, almost all those jackasses inside Washington, D.C. need to have a little time with the lamppost. By the way, I almost named my dog Diesel Lamppost because I found him attached to a light post. They left him there. At least he wasn't hanging by his neck or anything. He had slipped a leash collar combination and was barking and wagging his tail wanting to play with me. I miss my dog. I don't want to cry right now, but I miss him. Now, the problem is that the United States of America has been doing the same thing all the time. And I don't know how they do this. I'm sure there's some mechanisms. I'm sure there's some illustrious bankers that are involved in this stuff. But as one of the guys said, same as with Venezuela's gold in London. And he says, stole Venezuela's gold and mocked the Venezuelans starving as a result of socialism. Socialism? Or were they starving for theft? So we've done horrible things to many countries around the world, and we failed to do it because they got us rallying around the flag and all that stuff. And they're out there exploiting the rest of the world, projecting American might unfairly. Oh, and by the way, let's talk about a couple of name changers. Bush. The real name is Scherf. Scherf. And Prescott Scherf was trying to take down this government on behalf of that gentleman whose name can never be mentioned on this platform or any of the other controlled platforms. It was General Smedley Butler who caught that and was a honorable man, a Marine general, and he ratted them out and stopped that from happening. They don't change their spots, folks. The Bushes really have done a lot of crimes. They were both there, senior and junior, in Dallas on the day of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. They're not nice people. And in case you're wondering, it looks like their power comes through Mrs. Bush, who's also deceased. I know you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but she brought the banking heritage to that family. Oh, yeah, they're money changers, I guess. They're players in the game. They're not pikers. What happened to Libya's gold? Yeah, Libya was liberated too. We do the same thing everywhere. We allow that stuff to happen, and then we wonder why they're turning against us. And right now they're turning against us. You may not think so, but they are. We're losing India. India is a country we should not lose. The only reason we're losing them is because we had a fellow over here of Indian descent, of Sikh descent, last name Singh, who went over there to put the screws to them and let them know that if they didn't play game with us and, sanction the Russians, that they would have to pay a price. So we lose them too. This is all by design. This is the takedown of America. Biden's not generating this stuff, but he's happy to go along with it and do it because he gets to play president. We need to bring our boys home. We need to stop projecting American might. Our Navy can't prevail in the South China Sea anymore. Get within missile range, gone. You don't even know the missile's coming. It's so fast. China will take Taiwan. We stopped the Taiwanese from invading mainland China shortly after World War II. The Taiwanese were ready to invade mainland China, but the communists in our State Department wanted to make sure that the budding communist fellows in China got a chance to exist, chance to survive. But our country's been just totally betrayed. Nixon betrayed us, opening up trade with China. And you got to remember that Nixon was handled by Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger's still alive. He's a member of the tribes. I'm a member of the tribes too, but I'm from the northern half, the northern 10 tribes. Anyway, there's some identity thieves among those people. It's just sad that we stole the money from this country that really needed it. It was horrible all the way around. And now the Russians are going to be are recognizing the Taliban. What's with us? Afghanistan didn't do anything to us. They didn't do 9/11. Bush and Cheney did 9/11. And they had help from the outside. That whole thing was designed to take us down. It was a false flag. Like most of them are, it's a false flag. Yeah. False flag, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. It was just radio chatter. North Vietnam didn't attack our ships at all. And that's the lie that we gave in order to justify going in there. Oh, and by the way, the Kennedy assassination, that was 2 CIA operations concurrently going on. One was a false flag. They were going to fake the assassination attempt on President Kennedy and blame it on Castro in order to invade Cuba. But the sad fact is that the other CIA operation superseded it and really whacked the guy. Talk about getting suckered in. Talk about having a bad element among you. There's bad element in the FBI too. We all realize that at this point. The fact is that we have to cut this central government down to size. We need to go to an honest currency, and we're going to be helped. The dollar is losing its world reserve currency status. I would have to say rightfully so at this point. It's nothing but a system of slavery based upon debt. I hate the idea of getting hit in my retirements and all that stuff. But, there's no such thing as inflation, folks. That's a made-up word. It's called theft. They're stealing from you. They're stealing from us. They're stealing from me. That's what they do, is they steal. And our Congress aids and abets the criminal banksters. They help the money changers. Woodrow Wilson said, "I am a very sad man." Something to the effect, "I'm really a sad man because I have destroyed my nation." I'm glad. I wish I could remember the exact quote. I'm glad that's written in the books. You can look that up. Basically, he was admitting that by forming the Federal Reserve, that he had destroyed his nation. Slow motion, maybe. He may have been buried a long time ago, but nonetheless, he knew that this was going to happen to us because of that phony money. And we have Herbert Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover. Sorry about that. J. Edgar, who said that the average man is faced by a conspiracy so vast and so big he could never ever believe it. So, folks, you've been fooled. We've been fooled, and we can't believe it. When you've been fooled, the hardest thing is to wake up and realize you've been had. I know, I've been had. It's happened to me many times. We do have sociopaths running around us. Most of the sociopaths are right around Washington, D.C. What should we do? We need to get away from this paper money. We need to return to coin silver, coin gold. That's what we need to be doing, barter with, if you want, trading with. We need to ignore this central communist government in Washington, D.C. That's what it is, folks. They'll tell you it's a democracy. Well, democracy is nothing more than a glorified communism. You want a republic. In a republic, your rights are given by God, and your rights, the rights of the minority, their rights are protected. We no longer have protected rights because we're under Uniform Commercial Code. We have to return to becoming Americans, landed citizens of our states, not maritimers on the law, admiralty laws on the oceans of this false jurisdiction that they've imposed upon us. So we have been deported in place. So you and I are sitting in what looks like America, but it's really one of those phony corporations in a giant shell game called the United States of America. And so they brought the jurisdiction here rather than move us. Talk about deception, talk about being fooled. That's what's happened. So we got to go back to honest money. You'll say, how can we afford to run this government? We don't need to run this government. This government's evil at this point. What we need to do is reestablish George Washington's tariffs and duties at the borders. And my proposal is we establish that at 8%. So at the borders, anything coming across the borders, the value is declared, and whoever brings it in pays 8% in gold or silver at the point of entry, not later. This isn't a value-added tax. It's not a sales tax. We start at 8%. And as our industries at home build up, we increase it by 1% each month. So we can fix this in about 2 years. Because at the end of 2 years, we should be at the 30% tariffs and duties of George Washington. I think we take it a step further. We also declare to all of these companies that are providing services over the internet, over the phone lines, you will put a value upon the expertise, the service you're offering, and you will pay into the United States Treasury 8% of the value declared, and we will increase that by 1%. Yes, it's isolationist, but we need to get back to an honest government. The best thing we can do is come up with a new law. It tells the people in D.C. you got to live within your means. Not only that, you don't even get to live on what you're planning to collect. Your projected revenues are meaningless. You get to spend what you earned last year. That's it. You earn what has been collected last year. And so we return to the practices with a couple modifications. And we go slowly so it's not too much of a shock. But one more thing. All nations pay the 8%. All nations declare the value and pay 8%. There's no choosing favorites. There's no most favorite nation trading status anymore. We have to level the playing field inside the nation once again. It has to be fair. On your 16th Amendment, your IRS income tax, it never was voted on. It's not even legal. Our founders would never have tolerated it, but we certainly have. Once we get rid of nonprofits, non-government organizations with all of the extra benefits that they get over the average guy, and once we get rid of all of this systemic discrimination in which we hold women more valuable than men and all races more valuable than whites, once we get rid of that, we can have some real competition. We can have some real motivation to work, especially when a man goes back to the biblical standard, which is you're paid your wages at sunset. At the end of the day, you're cashed out. You're not waiting for a paycheck, and you certainly aren't having any deductions from your wages you earned that day to support yourself. That's what we need to go back to. We really need to withdraw from this stuff we've been doing across the world because we Americans fail to realize how much pain and suffering we're causing. We fail to realize how much we're legitimizing theft. Rule of law, that's why we don't have it in our nation anymore, because we don't respect the law outside of the country. And the crazy ass thing is the Chaikovs and the Russians who are trying to establish the rule of law. They're going to succeed. We're going to go down. We're not going to be world superpower, the superpower anymore. We've got to either lead by example and live up to our words. We have to become noble. We have to bite the bullet, make the sacrifices. We have to allow the reestablishment of industries here. Although I would beg we probably should just demand of the Chinese they provide us at least one of their looms that they bought from our nation. We need looms so we can make fabric. We can't even make cotton swabs, gauze patches anymore. The Chinese bought all of that. They didn't buy it, folks. Your senators sold it to them, and they stole it from us. Everything that they have, they stole from us. When I told my father that my inheritance had been stolen, he corrected me, telling me, no, your grandfather sold that property willingly. And I just kept my mouth shut at that point because I knew it was hopeless. I knew my father wouldn't understand about the theft of the Federal Reserve, about the bankruptcy of the United States of America about 1933. He wouldn't understand the difference between patented land and certificate of title, which I guess is even less than actual title. You know, even on our cars, we don't get anything but a certificate of title, which means we don't own it. We don't get the full title to anything. No transactions are made in full. By using this, well, there's good news. I hear there's a return to real money with silver. All right, that just flashed on my screen. That's it for today. I just need to tell you that don't support this war. Russia's already won it. Whatever they want to do, let them do. We did that criminality in the Ukraine, and I think we should beg the Russians to give us the evidence, and maybe we should even let them try our people. I'd like to see Barack Obama on trial for what he did in the Ukraine. I'd like to see Joseph Biden on trial for that as well. I'd like to see those senators on trial because their children have just been front men for them so they can collect these wonderful, wonderfully huge wages from being on the boards of these companies over there. Yeah, that includes Senator or Kerry's what do we want to call them, Secretary Kerry's children. I think that includes Pelosi's children, Mitt Romney's children. Oh, who else's children have been over there? Folks, we're so corrupt. We have become the people of the lie. We need to read our Bibles. We need to adhere to the original terms at Mount Sinai. And you might not realize it, but those were natural laws. So we're all parties to that. Even if we aren't all Israelites or Israelite descendants, we should be able to agree upon the 10 Commandments being natural law. May the Lord Yahweh bless you today.